Hi, I'm Florian Kohler.
Hi, I'm Betty.
Today we're going to talk to you about aiming system. First, we're going to talk about the ghost ball, usually for beginner, but in my opinion, still one of the most efficient. Second, we're going to cover the parallel method, which is really good, especially for long cut shots. Third one, we're going to cover a little introduction to CTE, which is in fashion right now. And last, we're going to talk about the ham system, which is pretty much the best of all. Let's get this started. The ghost ball. So this is pretty much the main method as far as aiming for most pool players. I'll say 95% of people use it, from very beginner to very high caliber players. So the ghost ball is basically an imaginary ball. So let's pretend we have this situation here, cue ball down here, and 3 ball out here. The idea is to basically make the 3 ball in the corner, which is a pretty simple shot. But in our case, we're going to try to basically analyze how it works. So I'm going to draw a line from the center of the corner into the center of the 3. And then I'm going to put the 5 ball line up with that line. That means the center of the 5 still in line there, okay? I'm going to leave that here for a second. This is basically what would be my ghost ball. So that's an imaginary ball that the cue ball is going to replace when you shoot it. Now, that being said, you have to also make sure that aiming for the center of the 5 and not the other side, because that's a little tricky there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let Valerie aim, like she's going to replace the cue ball into the 5 ball. I'm going to take the 5 ball out, and then we're going to make the 3 ball. Okay, so as you can see, this works very well, very efficient method. Works for pretty much any side on the table, anywhere on the table. The bigger problem to me using ghost ball, and why you might want to have more than just the ghost ball system, is when it gets to distance. So, speaking about distance, your ghost ball is going to get a lot smaller the further it is, meaning you're going to have a harder time to find the aiming spot on that ball. The next drawback is because the ball is not a flat. So, if we're looking at here, you have to think about it as, around the circle. So you're very rarely going to hit quite the center of that ball. It's going to be very difficult. And that means if you hit a little bit left or right, it's going to change your aiming and change the way you're going to hit that second ball, which is going to usually cut it more or something like that. So this is basically the reason why some shot that you feel like the ghost ball is perfectly in line, you still might have to hit them fuller or a little thinner. But once you understand that, it's a very efficient system. In my opinion, there's not much better than it. And you can really make a ball from pretty much anywhere on the table. And all it is practice and just hit the balls.
Okay, here I'm going to shoot the 1 ball into the corner. So here again, I'm going to imagine the ghost ball in the corner. Then I try to visualize the center of the ghost ball. I pivot to the cue ball, and then I'm going to shoot the cue ball into the center.
The parallel system now. So this is, in my opinion, a great system for long fin cut especially. The goal of the shot here obviously is to shoot the cue ball, fin cut here the 5 into the corner. So it's not the difficult of a shot, but it's going to be easier to explain you. So first we're going to have Valerie go and basically draw a line from the back of the 5 ball into the center of the corner pocket. So yeah, you got to be really close to it. Now the next step is I'm going to go right there, draw a parallel line to her cue into the front of the cue ball right there. So you got to make sure it's parallel, which is probably right here. It's not necessarily easy to see. Once you visualize that, so you have to memorize if you want, this spot, which is where the end of my tip was, and her spot right there, which is there. Now all you got to do is connect the dots. You're literally connecting this spot to this spot. So I know it sounds a little complex, but once you do it a few times and get in practice, you're going to visualize it, and it's absolutely foolproof. So let me try to demonstrate that and shoot the 5 in. Okay, so that was a pretty easy example. So let's put a few more like harder ones so you guys can really see how powerful this system and how accurate it is on long fin cut. Really a must-have in your arsenal. Third aiming system, the CTE. So before we go any further, I want to address the big elephant in the room here. It's been going around for a while now in the recent years. CTE is sort of like a magical unicorn that every pool player is talking about, from beginner to well confirmed. And a lot of people talk about it, but not many quite know exactly what it's all about. So personally, I know I've never used it until this week. And so I did some research, a lot of research actually. And to my surprise, there's not quite one CTE that's correct on the internet. You find a lot of versions, a lot of different versions, a lot of interpretation, but not one that we could actually rely on that's sort of good enough, in my opinion, to be trusted. Simply, I think the reason is a system implies it's a mathematical thing. In this case, it's not really mathematical, but a perception. That means it's all suited for yourself. Not your neighbor, not the next door player. It could be very different from one person to another. So that being said, don't take all my word for granted. I'm gonna give you my interpretation of it and my own variation. This is the most basic version of CTE I found, CTE meaning center to edge, and this one is actually called the manual pivot. So to me, my opinion, it's more of a pivoting system than anything else. Anyway, so just go into the first part of the system here. It's all about if you're gonna cut a ball on the left or the right. So if you're gonna cut the ball on the left, you're gonna go down with a tip of left, okay? If you cut a ball on the right, you're gonna do the same thing and go on the right, okay? So it's only one tip away from the center. So while most people will go down on the cue ball into the center and then adjust with spin, in this particular system, you literally go down with one tip of English already. So it takes already getting some used to it. Now that's done, so let's say you're aiming a ball on the left side. You gotta make sure every time for the system to work, your descent is the same, meaning it's almost a robotic system, like this and always the same. If you're not in one tip of English, but two or a half, it will not work. It will simply miss when you aim. So again, there, I'm gonna cut a ball on the left, I'm on one tip English, and now that's when the pivoting happens. This pivoting is basically just your right arm just shift a little bit. It is really a very subtle movement because you're right there and you just have to do this. So it's a very minor adjustment. It shouldn't really bother your legs, shouldn't bother your position. It's very minimal. Now what's gonna happen with this, and we're gonna see in a minute when I show you how to aim, is it's basically gonna center you to the object ball and make you aim the right spot in the object ball. Next big aspect of the CTE is the object ball and how it's divided. This is probably one of the only things that I've seen on the internet and all my research that kind of everybody agrees on. So there's basically A, which is the point here when the yellow band is basically stops. B would be the middle of the ball. That would be C, the other side of the yellow band. And D would be the edge of the 9 ball. So that would also reverse, being D, A, B, C, depending on where you hit the ball and depending on which side, if you cut it left or right. The degrees of perception, this is what they call degrees of perception. This is 15 degrees, 30 degrees, 45-degree perception. Now again, keep in mind, I am not the inventor. I am merely just did some research on it. So this is my take on it, and this is what we're gonna use in order to make some balls. Now that we talk about the preliminary concept and how it sort of works, let's dive into how to actually make a ball with CTE. So in this case, we have a standard situation, cue ball here, 9 ball down a little bit, and all we're gonna do is try to make the 9 ball in the side pocket. So pretty easy shot, but we're gonna do it the CTE way. Now that's where its name really takes its importance, because instead of aiming from the center of the ball into the center of the object ball like you do the ghost ball, you're gonna aim an edge of the cue ball. So edge of the cue ball into the left side band of the 9 ball, okay? So this is where it gets a little tricky with the system, is you sort of have to identify which perception degree you're getting on the ball. So in this case, I know because I practiced the system a little bit, I know this is an A category. And because the pocket's on the left side of the line, I know it's a left sweep, meaning I'm gonna go down with left English and then pivot. If the pocket was on the right side, I would go down with right and then pivot the other way. So now that we kind of identified that, the rest of the shot is pretty much like any standard shot. You have to step out of the box, okay, look at your shots. The only difference is I'm gonna look focused with the left edge of the cue ball straight into that, left side of the band, in the A point, okay? I'm gonna line them up and I'm never gonna leave them from my sights. Very important, I go down, 1 tip of English, okay? Now if this is not lined up, you have to get up. In my case here, I sort of missed my line up, so I'm gonna go back out. Any other pull shot, same thing. Again, I'm gonna do it again, there, this time locked in, okay? From there, all you gotta do is this pivot thing, there, pivoting 1 tip, center ball, and the beauty of it is because it's all automatic now, all I gotta do is just shoot the ball. I don't have to worry about looking anymore, just there. And I could do a million things. I could look behind, could look on the left, could look on the right, because I'm already all set. I am basically good to go. And that's why the CTE is so important, because it takes some pressure of you. Let's cover a few more examples now. Here's another example. We have the cue ball here, 13 ball there. All we gotta do is try to make the 13 in the corner. This is obviously a little more of a tough shot already. I mean, some people don't like that shot, and usually you'll see it, people are gonna miss it a lot of time on the short trail out there. So again, I'm gonna do my CTE system here, but I know this time it's a B category. Again, this is practice, this is something you have to find by yourself, but it's more of a perception feel, okay? So I'm gonna do left edge of the cue ball into the B, which is the center of the 13. Why am I doing left? Because again, if I draw a line, the pocket's on the left side of it, not the right, okay? So same thing, we're gonna go from down there, out of the box, line up already looking at my cue ball edge, the left edge into the center of the 13, go down with 1 tip of English, make sure it's center, pivot, and there. As you can see, it's really working. Now let's do another example here. Third example here, we're now on a much more difficult shot. I'm gonna have to hit the cue ball into the 1 and cut the 1 ball on the right corner here. So again, difficult shot that most people don't really like. Because we're going to the right side, again, if you draw a line there, the pocket's on the right side, there's gonna be a right sweep, meaning I'm gonna go with right English and then pivot to the left. Okay, that being said, now we gotta find the family or zone we're gonna have to. It's obviously not a C, it'll be too full, not a B, still too full. So it's obviously an A. In this case, it's pretty simple. The only problem is we do not have the stripe anymore. So you just have to remember to visualize sort of like that straight bend on the cue ball on that stripe ball, okay? Once you visualize that, go down 1 tip of right English, pivot, make the shot. I'm just gonna do it again, step out of shot, visualize my A, never leaves my point in the eye, pivot, there. So as you can see, this is really working. It's even for myself, it took me a little while to get used to it, the idea that you're not going to the same spot you're aiming and then pivoting. But after some practice, a few hours of practice, to be honest with you, I find out it's actually really working because it takes some pressure out of you. We have now a long shot, meaning the cue ball is gonna try to hit the 8, make the 8 in the corner. Now, because when I say long, it's basically over 4 diamond distance. Again, remember, the CT is not something you can learn overnight. This is something complicated. You need to practice, find your own version of it. All I can tell you is past 4 diamond, you need to do a reverse sweep. Meaning in our case, if you think about everything I taught you right before that, it would have been a left sweep. The problem is if you do a left sweep, you're gonna naturally miss the 8 ball on the left side, on the fin side. Okay, so I'm gonna do a right sweep. So first I gotta find the category. So I'm gonna find my left edge of the cue ball, and I'm gonna line it up with the center of the 8 ball. Again, this is because I know this is a B category, and this is because I worked out, I know exactly my perception. Now, instead of going with the left sweep, I'm gonna go to the right sweep, meaning I'm gonna go down with 1 tip of right English, and then I'm gonna pivot, okay? So I'm just gonna do it properly here for you so you can see. Right there, 1 tip, pivot, there. Again, it's just something that you have to believe in. You have to make sure your mechanic is proper, that your descent is correct, and everything will go in line. Our fourth system is what I call the HAM system. It actually is my favorite of all time. Asking what it stands for? HAMB, hit a million balls. Because there's absolutely no substitute for practice. Whatever you're gonna do, if you practice a lot, you're gonna build muscle memory over time, and you're gonna know exactly where to hit the ball, when, where, and what to do with it. This is, to my opinion, the best ever. I'm gonna ask Valerie, what do you think? What's your favorite aiming system?
For me, my favorite is also the M system, but I like on like some kind of shot sometimes use the ghost system.
Yeah, I think what she's trying to say is basically whenever you're not confident as well, you might want to rely more on a system that's more mathematic or more systematic rather than your instinct, your muscle memory. But at the end of the day, practice, is the best. That's what's gonna make you a great player.
Yes.
Remember, as usual, please check out pool.com for all your pool and billiard supply. And we really truly hope this lesson helps you with your aiming.